Hello, dear friends, dear civilizations followers. So I make my first English speaking stream, and maybe my English is not so good, but I will try. And the most of time will speak Kevin. Kevin is for the first time, I think, generally on YouTube. So both of us we have interesting experience. Hello, Kevin.
Hi. Hi, everybody out there.
So, look, Kevin, I'm incredibly happy that Donald Trump won this election. It was really
hmm
something incredible, and a lot of people in Ukraine are very happy with Donald Trump. There are somebody who in our government who is strongly on the side of the Democratic Party in this one of kinds of stupidity of Ukrainian political system, because Ukrainian political system is quite young, and in these questions
hmm
cannot play good game with both parties in America. In Poland is
Uh,
very similar situation, but in other side. Poland was continuously on the side of the Republicans, as for example, former election cannot build a lot of time good relationship to President Biden. But why Trump is wonderful for Ukraine? I think Trump can end the war, and it was one of permissions from his side, and I think he has enough of instruments to do that. First of all, tell me about your feelings considering this, and after them also about you generally, your experience, how you became military soldier, how you came to Germany, and so.
I think it's a pretty clear signal that the American people have said voting for Donald Trump. He he won. Like it's a very a lot of times where the last couple of years there's been a lot of close races. It really wasn't even close in the end. He's up. They're still counting votes, obviously, but he's up a good 4 million votes. And it's been the case before. People have lost the popular vote and won the election, which I think is confusing for people who don't maybe 100% understand our political system. But yeah, I think it's fantastic, even for the entire world. I know here there's obviously a lot of people are not too happy about it. He's gonna the economy here is not doing well, and I think definitely with his new tariffs, it's definitely gonna accelerate the deindustrialization of Germany. But in general, it's a good thing for everybody in the world. I think, unless you're on the wrong side. If you have nothing to worry about, then everybody should profit from the money that's going to start flowing into America, into the stock market.
Hmm. Yes, wonderful. By the way, good attention about this vote in America, because Donald got less votes in this election than the election for 4 years. But because of American system, even with less
hmm
votes, he won the
Yes,
election. This
you
is
can still win.
the point, because he won this key or this key states. Yes.
Yes, yes. It's once again it's to do with the electoral college, how it's designed. Um, some states are they have more votes in the electoral college than others, and it doesn't matter if you win. It doesn't necessarily matter if you win the popular vote. There's a lot of people in California, but still only so many votes in the electoral college.
Mhm. Okay. Anyway, I think it's good news for America that also every swing state was to voted mostly for Donald Trump. So we
hmm
can say it's not this election is not so dividing as former
No,
elections, because
it is
for
pretty
example,
clear.
even 2016, if I
hmm
remember, because of this kind of special kind of American election, Hillary Clinton won the election by absolute count of
hmm
American people, of citizens
Yes.
who voted. but Donald Trump won the election by these states. And this
Yeah,
time he won both. He won the most Americans more than Kamala,
very, very
uh,
consequently.
and most all of swing states, and of course more of this college. Now, Kevin, tell me about your personal experience. You was in military of US in Germany, and
Yes.
you are still in Germany. So, short introduction of how you came to Germany, and also how you became Republican. Because for a lot of people in Europe, it's not so traditional like for Americans. This election, I vote for this party. This election for the other. There are 10 parties, maybe in the cycle of life,
Hmm.
mostly in countries like Ukraine or even Poland, or for example, France. Parties are very frequently changing each other. This election, you have five parties. Next election, only one from these five is still in the parliament. All other parties are changed. And your American tradition is opposite to them. So you have consequently two main parties.
Yes.
Yes, and most people are Republicans or Democrats. So tell us
Uh,
how it's in your story.
so just to touch on that, this is also a new development. This is actually this year how most people have not aligned themselves with a party. 40% of all voters are voted independent, and the other 30% Republican, the other 30% Democrat. So this is also a thing that is slowly changing, I think, in America. Um, but anyways, back to what the point was. So I joined the U.S. Army in 2010, I believe. Um, and I ended up being stationed, like you mentioned before, here in Germany. Um, there's another thing a lot of people don't know is actually how many U.S. service members are still stationed in Europe. I think they're always quite surprised once they hear, for example, that Ramstein is the largest U.S. military base outside of the United States, and it's here in
Mhm.
Germany.
And this
But
is
so I
very
was stationed
important point for Ukrainians. Ramstein is
Ramstein.
place
Yes,
where
very.
people meet to give Ukrainians or to decide which weapons give to Ukraine.
I'm sure it's a huge, it's an absolutely massive military base. It's I've been there one time. It's absolutely huge. Um, but I met my wife here. She's a German national, and after my time in the army, I went back to America for a couple of years, and I started the community college. But I ended in 2015. I ended up moving to Germany. I wanted to study at the university here. I started learning German. Then I went to the study college where Dimitri and I met. Actually, almost
Yes,
that's
actually,
such a long time ago now, but um,
it was I think 8 years ago,
yeah, it
2000
must be something like
since
this. Yeah.
2016. By the
Yes.
way, since time Donald Trump is in American politics massively. We know each other since his first electional campaign.
Yeah. So um, since then, I've been living in Germany. I lived the entire time in Bavaria. I live in Nuremberg right now. I was planning maybe a couple years ago about moving back to America, but I don't know. It's a tough decision to make either way. Um, but that's yeah. I don't think that's about it for me. Um,
You're already integrated in Germany, and
kind of.
so tell us how is this question in Germany discussed? We know that Trump is very anti-German in a lot of questions. First of all, in economics, in the question of the pipeline
Definitely.
and of energetics. And we know that, and I remember that German people was very strong against Donald Trump. In our
Yeah.
college, closely every of our professors made propaganda against Donald Trump and
Yes.
for Hillary Clinton. And we
Absolutely.
both, maybe even me more than you, was consequently on the side of truth and spoke to us. We are. It's not so how you explain in the college, because a lot of people supported Trump, but didn't decide to make it openly. Yes, we are free
Yes.
people. This is good.
Absolutely.
Uh, what is this phenomenon that in
Mm.
Germany people are so skeptical against Donald Trump? On your from your experiences, from your opinion.
I I don't honestly. I think in general, just any type of conservatism in America is way too far. What the Germans would consider way too far right. Um, if you look at the two, like if you look at the political systems on a scale, everything in America is just a little bit pushed a little bit more right. For example, even the Democrats in America are not as super liberal as the social democrats, for example, in Germany. So that's the first thing I would say you have to consider is that everything is just the scale is just a little bit off from each other. I think the idea that why American people were so enthusiastic about him in 2016, the fact that you had this outsider, the fact that you had um, somebody who was not from the political system. This is another reason why I think that uh, Germans were so skeptical. Like, could he really do the job? Was he really fit to do the job? Um, once again, it's this unpredictability that he has, which also is scaring German people. You lived here a long time. You understand how they think. You know, they want everything just to be in order. Everything has its own rhythm, and the system works because everybody adheres to it. And if you have somebody trying to change the status quo, they don't know what kind of effects this is going to have long term on um, their politics. And you already see. I don't know if you've heard this. The government here is currently breaking apart, and it really happened. Like it was already been starting for a while, but I have to wonder: does the election in the USA did this accelerate this process of the government crumbling? I'm not sure.
Mhm. So, okay, I understand that German people are very systematical people, expectation from the life on the predicted results, and this is one of reasons why I left Germany. It was impossible to me. It was too much. How to say? Um, so okay, it was not something for me. In Ukraine is completely other situation. By the way, I'm in Kharkiv, and I don't know if I will be alive the next minute or not. This night, for example, I'm living in the city center of Kharkiv, and in the main building of Kharkiv was targeted by a missile from Russians. It's maybe 500 meters or less than kilometer, around mile maybe counting in American scales from my house. So it's
Well,
yes,
let's hope nothing happens.
unpredictability is the law.
Let's hope nothing
Um,
happens then.
okay, and look, Kevin, Donald Trump is not for the first time the president. And
Hmm.
when we when we are looking back, so to say, to what happened in time of his presidential first presidential term between 2016 or 2017 and 2020, and but also before, as he became a candidate for the first time from the Republican Party. How did you consider this choice? Because I know it's also primaries in the parties of America. it's also quite serious thing. There were other candidates, and he won for the first inside Republican Party. Human maybe quite out than it's normally, or it was normally for Republican Party. Like he's really this showman, this man who is dealing very how to say not how it's normal for American politics in the past. I mean, in even for 2016, and somehow he won these primaries firstly, and then election. So how do you think why he won this election? How was your opinion in this 2016 during these primaries, during this inside election of Republican Party? Was it your candidate? And also after them, during he was already president. What do you think about what he did, right or wrong?
I think 2016, he just really like this is something that I don't know will ever be repeated. He really just caught lightning in a bottle. Like it was such a phenomenon. I don't know if at the beginning if he seriously thought himself that he could actually become the candidate. I think this was maybe at first more of a stunt, but he was going up week after week, and for me, it's one of the same things that I think a lot of people notice is that he was I don't know, when he was debating the other candidates, maybe he was punching a little bit below the belt and attacking them, on personal things, but I think he really used this up with the entertaining. Like you mentioned, the showman. He was calling people's wives dogs. He was saying a lot of really rude stuff, and people were like, "Wow, I've never heard some guy who's trying to throw his hat in the political arena talk like this." It was something new, and it was just he really captured with his sense of populism really what was important to people at the time, and honestly, what do people want to hear? And they were tired of I think tired of the normal politicians who just trying not to say anything bad, and it was a really, I think at that time America was starting to get really woke, which is for the first time. It got obviously worse later under Biden, but at that time people wanted a change. Obama had been the president already 8 years. Obviously, you also cannot forget about the wars that had been going on in the Middle East. Obama with his drone wars. People were just, I think, willing to take a chance to see, hey, this guy is promising us something different. Can he really do it? I think 2020, he didn't quite as. I think a lot of people were disappointed, which is why he was not elected in 2020. He obviously, no politician is ever going to fulfill all the promises that they make during an election. That's obvious. But I think he made two outlandish of promises that he did not fulfill. For example, the wall. I don't know if people really thought he was going to build a giant wall. Maybe. This was such a crazy thing to say you're going to do, and then you don't do it. And I think this really did hurt him in the 2020 election. But now in 2020 things were still okay as far as the economy and everything. But I think that's a major reason now why he did get elected again. The Biden administration really did not fulfill. They have not done such a hot job, and they got punished for it. The Democrats got punished in this year. But I do think that's why he was not elected again in 2020. He just didn't do everything. A lot of people were dissatisfied. Republicans mostly, I would say. And a lot of people voted for the Libertarian Party. I voted in 2020 for the Libertarian Party. I did not vote for Donald Trump in 2020. Could
So
say
you
I can look back.
were disappointed, I can say, or you can say
I
from
mean,
Donald.
the honest truth is, it's great that they have these other parties other than the Democrats and Republicans. But if you're voting for them, you're basically just wasting your vote. And I think a lot of people who think like me, maybe not so. I'm not 100% convinced. You know, I would not vote for every candidate just because they're a Republican. But if you look, the percentage went down. I think like 2% from the Libertarian candidate this election cycle. So a lot of people were like, okay, we can't actually vote for any other third parties. We don't want it. It's kind of the same situation in 2016. Do you like Donald Trump less or Kamala less? Because a lot of people don't see it, either candidate as a good option. But who is the lesser of the two evils? And yeah, I think that's another thing that changed too.
So in this, in this situation, I think about the American electoral system, because had it normal European system with two election games, so how it's
Mm-hmm.
Wahlgang in German.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe libertarians had ability to vote for first gang or first part for his candidate and for the favorite candidate, and the second time between two who are the most elected, between Biden and Trump. In this case, if you are voting
Yeah,
for libertarians,
I
your
see what
vote
you're saying.
is more or less lost, because it's
Yeah,
no chance for libertarian and only to
no.
show to system. Look, there is other options generally.
Yes, it's really like it's kind of the point I was trying to go back making there before. It's kind of like a protest vote if you're voting for somebody else, one of these third parties. You know, they have the Green Party, of course, the Libertarian Party. Those are the two biggest ones. And I looked today, they got maybe like 0.4% of the votes this year. And historically, though, they might get 2-3%. Yeah, but I think people saw this really as like a very critical election. You know, the,
This time
we just
2020.
this vote was more important. I don't think people took the vote that seriously in 2020. Like me either. You know, like okay, whatever. Joe Biden or Donald don't like either of them. But yeah, I think that's really the point here, that people just really did not want Kamala Harris to be elected. Um, they really did themselves a disservice when because after the initial debate between Biden and Trump, they did not immediately say, "Hey, you know what? He's not going to be our candidate." No, they stood by him and waited 3 weeks to actually say, "You know what, Joe? You're not the guy anymore." So this flip flop that they did, I think this is really, really, really one mega point why the Democrats lost the election this year. They totally mishandled this with the debate and
Ah,
Kamala. Even if they say, you know, hey, Kamala beat Donald in their debate, just the whole situation, how they handled it. You know, Joe was out sniffing people's hairs, eating ice cream, and they still said, you know what, he's our guy. They kind of lost. I think they lost the elections themselves. Not that Donald did anything fantastically great. You know, did a really good job in the media this election cycle. He was everywhere doing his rallies. I honestly think the Joe Rogan podcast that he did was also super, super, super popular, and I think this definitely made a difference. I think it got like something like 40 million views, something crazy. I don't know. I think a lot of people saw this, and you know, they were willing to give him another chance.
So we can say, or you could say that Joe Biden had better chances on the election than
I
Kamala Harris.
I think he would have, but just this indecisiveness from the party as a whole does not is not what you want to see in in your future president. No, not at all.
I also think Kamala Harris is very normal human in meaning just ordinary human to be
Hmm.
president. It should be somebody special. Maybe, and
Hmm.
even Biden is somehow with his very old political experience, sees somehow very strongly integrated into politics by reading biography of Kamala Harris. I don't see it would be biography of the American president somehow. So those my
No,
Ukrainian opinion
she
should be.
she was another problem with Kamala that why a lot of people didn't like her. I think she was the district attorney for a long time in San Francisco. Um, And so a lot of people are saying, okay, well, look at San Francisco now. It is an absolute shithole. It is worse than, it's like a third world country there. And if this is what she was doing there as the most important lawyer in the city, you know, supposed to be fighting crime out there, and it's worse than Somalia, in the streets. I don't think this was a good reflect. Well, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's pretty bad. Um, a lot of there's been such a huge in the last 10 years a mass exodus out of California of people moving away. So I don't know. I think maybe this had to point to do with it too. But also, I think she's a very intelligent lady. I'm absolutely sure of it. But it's hard. I think it's also difficult how she presents herself sometimes with her like her crazy laughing, and I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know what the general sentiment is, but I think, like you said, her biography, being a lawyer, not necessarily bad, but um, just not made. If you're gonna, there's a couple different types of politicians, of course. Like you have Donald, the guy who's getting it done on his personality, his charisma. And then you will have maybe a guy who's a real bureaucrat, and she just kind of didn't, who's been a system politician for however many years, just staying low to the ground. But she just didn't have like you said. I don't think she had the background either.
Mhm. I understand. So, very good that you mentioned her experiences as this prosecutor in California, in San
Hmm.
Francisco, and this level of criminality. So, by reading or hearing some stories from the US, I don't know. I wasn't in US. I can compare, for example, to Marseille, maybe in France, where is also a lot of criminal city. That it may be even more dangerous to be attacked from a criminal in San Francisco than to be in Kharkiv to be attacked from a Russian missile. But I don't know. I from this
Hmm.
news because here's I going to tonight in Kharkiv on the street shortly before this commandant hour, if I translate it correctly to English. This is it's prohibited during the night from 0 so from 12 p.m. to 5
Hmm.
a.m. To be on the street. But
Okay,
before this,
there's a curfew.
I'm absolutely sure the city is controlled by military also. And in San Francisco, as I understand, it's even less sure.
Um, for all just the things I've heard, since Biden has been the president, they has been such a massive movement to defund the police departments in America. I'm sure you remember the Occupy movements that were going on at the beginning of the pandemic, where they were setting up these crazy no-go zones and occupying. I believe it was in Seattle, I think, where they occupied a building, a government building. So people got what they wanted. They've stopped funding the police, and I know it's probably younger people think it's really cool to not have police officers, but in cities like San Francisco, they're just blatant people breaking into cars. Um,
Mhm.
and they made a new law recently, a couple years ago in California, that if you steal anything under $1,000, it's not a felony, which is a very bad crime. So I think people also did not trust, like, well, this is going on in California, and she was part of the system that enabled this. What is she gonna do with the entire country? We're gonna stop funding the FBI. Are we not gonna, where does it go? The police, as
Yeah.
far as I've heard, they like you can call them in certain cities in California, and I'm sure other cities too, but they don't even come. Like, you can call the police and they won't even come. So, I mean, obviously that's a problem if you're in a state that wants to really strictly access your to strictly control your access to weapons. Because if I don't have the police in America and this guy's got a gun, he's trying to harm me. Well, what are you gonna do?
Of course, of course.
Yeah,
With this
it's a serious
America
problem.
freedom for weapons. And by the way, if we are talking about Donald Trump, what you could tell as main points? I understand with the wall, it was maybe not the best result, but otherwise, look, the wall on the border to Mexico, it's not only the idea of Donald. It was before a
No.
lot of parts of border inside
Mm.
big city like San Diego are
Yes.
have borders. This is
Yes.
not first Donald who
Tijuana
invented
is
this
right on the other
process.
side.
So some parts of the border has have walls, and it was built also during Trump presidential term, and also after them, and I don't know under Biden or not. And we can say it's in process because it's thousands of kilometers and so on. But
Yeah.
other points, if we're talking about criminality, his very big point was a fight against criminality during first election. Did he have some results on these areas or economy also? So what could you tell us key points of success of Donald's politics? And can we also tell that during the pandemic and cause of pandemic, his success was somehow stopped or somehow crashed.
Um, I think one of the major things that he in general stands for is the deregulation of certain things, and I think this was super successful. It's a very controversial subject still, even in America. But I'm talking about fracking. Do you know what this is? Okay.
Yes, yes. This is this
Um,
gas things to make it
exactly.
from the rocks.
Um, exactly. This was such a huge thing. But it's just an example. On the Joe Rogan podcast too, he talked about what more he has planned as far as deregulating things. Uh, the government's job is to definitely regulate things to some extent, but you can also obviously overregulate a lot of things. That makes it hard for things to get done, and that's ultimately what he's trying to do. He wants to empower businesses and people to do whatever project they want to get done. And I think that the fracking is was a super good thing that he supported. Um, Another point that he had was to get rid of corruption, which I don't think any president will ever be able to do. There will always be corruption as long as people can use their position of power to make money. So I can't really comment on that because that was a big point of him to drain the swamp. Um, I think of course, his foreign um, policies were super successful. I don't think, for example, I don't know. there. I don't know about the
Was the
situation with
war?
the. I don't know about the war with Ukraine if that would have happened. But for example, I can say
Of
for
course.
sure. I can say for sure, like if Donald would have been the president and not Biden, for example, Netanyahu would not have been able to just run crazy like he's been doing, uh, for so long. Joe Biden has even told him, you got to cool down a little bit, and he's not listening to him at all. I don't know what I don't know exactly what Donald is going to do with the war in the Middle East. Um, I think a lot of people speculate that the invasion of Ukraine never would have happened either. I don't know personally. Maybe you have an opinion to that. Um, but we're already seeing that even yesterday already, Putin did call Donald to congratulate him. Um, so maybe it'll take a while. I don't believe his promise either. He's going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. I think it's obviously a little more complicated than that. But I think he'll definitely at least get Putin to the table to have serious discussions about how is it going to end.
Of course, of course. The main point is binary ultimatum or something like that. If I tell us correctly in English, so he can
Mm-hmm.
tell to Putin, look, if you don't stop, I will give Ukraine a lot of weapons, and your
Yeah.
army will be ended. What Biden doesn't do, he tells a lot of fucking nice words. We are for democracy, for something, for every good, against every evil, and he doesn't even promise to use weapon already given to Ukraine, and didn't give enough weapon to win or to make more or
Mm-hmm.
less good results on the front lines. After every good result on the front line, for example, after Kharkiv attack from the Ukraine armed force in 2022 in the summer, and after Kherson, the occupation of northern part of Kherson region and entire part of right bank from the Dnipro, from the main river,
Mm-hmm.
America stopped to deliver weapons. Also, the second part of 2023, it was very big, very complicated with new weapons, and now we are feeling this results of breaking Ukrainian front lines. And Trump, I think, he is somebody, uh, as you told to me, Netanyahu. If he tells it must be done, it must be
Yeah.
done. If it's not
He's
done,
yeah.
he finds some way to make it be done.
You have to
And
pay.
of course,
There's consequences for your actions, of course, like in any rational society. Just obviously a larger scale, but 100%. I don't know if you've heard this. This is coming out already. The Wall Street Journal reported yesterday that the first plan that somebody from the Trump administration, I don't know if they leaked it, but the Wall Street Journal reported that what he wants to do, um, as far as the side of the Ukraine is, say, hey, okay, so I'm going to promise Putin that I am not going to allow the Ukraine to join NATO for 20 years,
mhm.
but I will also keep delivering weapons to the Ukraine. And he wants to make a DMZ, a demilitarized zone. I'm guessing, obviously, along with the occupied and um, areas, in the east. So I don't know. This is his first plan. I don't know if you've heard about this, but this is what's reported. Um,
Of course, this would be. I by the way, I have also something to dream for the victory of Donald Trump and JD
I'm
Vance,
just
for
drinking
example.
water today.
Yes, but no, on my table, the water ended, and on the beer list somehow happens to me. So but to the victory of Donald Trump and to the peace in Ukraine too, because it's very good plan, I think, with demilitarized zone, with maybe international forces. Uh, if we look to Korea or even Israel, Syria, somehow
Yeah.
Vietnam, but Vietnam is some other thing. Okay, but generally, if something was worked, I would be very happy. If it goes, of course, you are right. It is metaphorical about 24 hours, because
Yes,
24
obviously.
hours is not. No, Zelensky used for as the first this metaphor. He called some format Ukraine 24 to reunite countries of the world. If something happens to Ukraine, 24 hours, the countries have to help Ukraine. I think it's
Okay.
also this kind of showman making politics. And by the way, we are
Yeah.
very good understanding this Trump thing in Ukraine, because if we look to Zelensky, how he won his
Yeah.
election, and we um, elaborated this on discovered this was on the university. It's very similar
Yeah.
to what
Hmm.
Trump did. The very big difference that Zelensky has no former party, so he built another party, and also the I would say kind of people around Zelensky was less than around Trump, cause of he needed to build everything from zero, opposite to Trump, who had
Yeah.
Republican Party, and also America is quite old state. I mean, comparing to Ukraine, independent
Hmm.
only 30 years. But anyway, in this thing, I can imagine, even comparing to North Korea case, that Donald communicating with him, he
Hmm.
was firstly very aggressive, yes, with this
Yeah.
how I can my English is not so good, but you understand what I mean. Maybe you can tell better this story of Kim Trump relations. I think you also can tell us as good how to say uh, something uh, good from Donald Trump what he done.
With North Korea,
Yes,
I
a good example. Sorry, good example. This word.
I don't know anything specifically like what he said. I can tell you this kind of what you kind of pointed at this good cop bad cop like idea like he's got a not just a carrot but also the stick. I think one of the most fascinating things that he said about this was when he was doing negotiations with the leader of the Taliban, and he met with him, and he straight up told him. He said he showed him pictures of his house. You've probably heard the story, right? He showed the leader of
Mm-hmm.
the Taliban pictures of his house, and he said, "If you harm one American person, I'm gonna blow up your house. I'm gonna kill you." And he claims after that there was no deaths of Americans in Afghanistan after he took he promised, he made him a promise that he could, the other guy just he couldn't withstand it. What are you going to do if somebody tells you this, like, and if you really believe them, um then you have no choice. And I don't know what he talked to with Kim Jong Un about, but I'm sure he had some very direct and harsh words for him. Not a threat. It's a promise, and I'm sure he had a lot to say. I don't know.
I think very good thing also. Also with this Taliban leader, I remember the words of Donald Trump. Why I speak with Taliban? Because they are killing American people. Of course, I need to do something against them. So, firstly, he put somebody under pressure, under big military pressure, or under personal pressure, maybe, as you explained,
Yeah.
with Taliban leader. But in the same time, he offer him something good. So
Exactly.
he offers him the best way to, if he accepts these conditions, that it will be better for Afghanistan. And I could imagine the Taliban leader could think, okay, I don't have to fight against American soldiers, but I can tell,
Yeah.
so American soldiers, let our people live as we as it's usually for us to live, without to involve a lot into internal things of Afghanistan. And if we look
Hmm.
to the controlled zones by Taliban, uh, last years of this pro-American government, pro-American government controlled only areas of big cities like Kabul, like Kandahar. Yes, a lot of country was controlled by local people with Taliban, I think, or mostly connected to Taliban or even parts of Taliban. And it was, I think, practical normality for even
Yeah.
Donald,
Yeah.
even with Taliban. If Biden comes and tell you are terrorist, we need to eliminate you. You are
No.
not acceptable. But what is only words? But they hear these words and they begin to act. And finally, Biden returned American military from Afghanistan. Yes,
Yeah.
and it was the end of all this liberty of Afghanistan.
That was also pretty controversial, obviously. Because a lot of people, they spent billions and billions, trillions of dollars even. The U.S. soldiers were there, what, 20 years? And there's nothing to show for it now. Afghanistan's not a better place than it was before. Iraq's, not any better off. And I think this is another critical thing, this idea with Donald Trump, with this America first. Yes, he does want to make America better, but it's not good for the world when you have people like Obama doing his drone war across the Middle East. If you just live and let other people live and everybody gets along, then usually things should go pretty well. Um,
Mm.
and it goes back to what you were saying with the carrot and the stick. Sometimes you need the carrot, sometimes you need a stick. But
Mhm.
I think, and a lot of people, I don't think people understand. The neoliberalism is not made for peaceful existence between countries. It's just simply not, and I don't think, and nobody actually has a legitimate interest in wars. This is not, this is just messing everything up. So I think it's actually quite. This is another thing that you cannot underestimate. Like, just the fact that when there's world peace, everything is just going to work better. Everything's, there's been people been memeing for like a long time now, talking about that they're really concerned about the legitimate, like a war in Taiwan if Kamala would have been elected. There's all kinds of wars that people were I don't know how serious it was, but the chances were obviously much higher. This is I don't think you can really dispute this. If you look at every, obviously you had George Bush in the 2000s in the Iraq War originally, but after that, every Democratic president was not doing anything differently. They were not doing anything differently at all.
Look, this is very good example because I remember exactly that after George Bush, Republican president, who was very military or militant president who made wars in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and
This was,
also
I would
uh,
say, this was for money though. This is the big difference. Is this was for money and not politically motivated to say. I think that's a major difference though. I just wanted to without.
It may be, but I mean that his politics was like aggressive and military considered, and politics of Obama came and won the election on messages of peace or
Yeah,
messages of peaceful relationships also to
yeah.
Russia. It was this reloading or somehow like that of relationships after war in Georgia. I mean, not Georgia in the USA,
Mm-hmm.
but Georgia between Russia and Turkey. For American viewers who maybe don't know this country. And now it's after Obama who won this Nobel Award for peace. This
Insane,
very
insane.
fun history. He won this for peace, this award, and after that he began the war in Libya. And
Yeah.
he spoke, no, with terrorists you cannot, or with dictators you cannot speak. So I have also to our discussion the question from viewer
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Moshak. Hi, Daniel.
Hi,
What
Donald.
does Kevin think about including Ukraine in NATO right now? May help war experience of Ukrainian soldiers, you are soldier by the way, and officers to be stronger right now. Or this may only be useful in future after war ends. Or generally, I would speak. How do you think about good relationship between the USA, between Western countries? And Ukraine, including to NATO, or maybe some other kind like with Israel or South
Mm-hmm.
Korea, without
Yeah.
NATO, but in very close
Mm-hmm.
connection, also with exchanging of military experiences and strong sides, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think?
I don't. I don't honestly see this happening. In like immediately. I think mostly. I don't know how. It's probably a very practical idea, of course. Um, I don't. I don't personally see why there would be any reason not to. But I think as long as Putin is in power, he is not. They're not. They're going to have to make. It's going to go back to this deal that he's going to make with Donald. I don't know exactly what kind of compromise they are realistically going to reach. Like who is going to have to concede more. Um, I don't think it's such a bad idea though. There's no reason not to, especially considering that the West has spent trillions of dollars building up the army in Ukraine. It would make sense.
Mhm.
I'm sure they're using probably already mostly standard NATO equipment because they're being supplied mostly by NATO. Um, I just don't know if it's realistically going to happen though.
Mm.
But like I said, practically it would make sense. But because I'm a bit concerned about this actually um, that Donald. I'm not going to say. I don't want to say he would sacrifice the Ukraine to end the war, but I think there's a good possibility that the Ukrainian state will have to make some hard concessions to end the war. I don't know though. Honestly, it depends on how committed he is. He said. I mean, he promised he's going to do it. I This is one because I'm worried that he is going to end up making Ukrainians actually be the loser of this invasion. Only so that way Vladimir doesn't need to look like an idiot at home in Russia to all the Russians. Like, oh, that way I'm worried that Donald's going to allow him to have certain things. That way Putin can still say at the end, "Oh, look how successful it was! I won. I did this, that."
Mm.
It's still up in the air.
Mhm. Understand. So the next question, or continuing also this question,
Hmm.
what do you think about this idea of Zelensky that Ukraine would offer to allies experience after war, of course, after ending of the war,
Hmm.
experience in soldiers with experience on the biggest war in Europe since World War II.
Hmm.
And against this, for some conflicts, I don't know, as private armies or
Ah,
something like
okay.
that. And against this, Ukraine should get weapon, and this will be like this deal, this exchange. And this is part of victory plan of Zelensky,
Mhm.
very criticized inside Ukraine. But how do you think this opportunity of exchange, also from your military experiences, can it be useful?
I think that this is clearly, I think as far as like the technology goes, if you just consider that, it's been a proving ground for a lot of new technologies that did not exist before. Obviously the drones everyone's going to mention. You also have these what are they? These boats with the surface to air missiles on them. That's a pretty crazy invention. Um, I I don't know. I don't honestly know.
Mm.
What was your exact question? Should the battle experienced Ukrainian soldiers, once the war ends, what do you do with them? Like, are they going to be in these private armies? Is that basically what you were asking? If I think this is a good idea? Did I understand you right?
Yes, yes. If it is it useful idea, maybe comparing
Yeah,
to
sure.
French international
Yeah,
legion.
I think this is a very plausible idea. Something like battlefield experience. You can train all you want, but unless you're really out there in the shit, you can't replicate this. I think it would be a fantastic idea. Obviously, you to have like maybe the Ukrainian counterpart to the Wagner group. I don't see why.
Hmm.
Why would this be a bad idea? These guys got tons of experience now. Yeah. The question is
Yes,
where. Obviously, who is gonna employ them and where. But
I think too. I think first of all we need to make private armies inside Ukraine, and this is big problem. And this is the problem. Also, we was able to see with Wagner Group. Ukrainian government doesn't trust to soldiers to build
mhm.
private organizations. Because even Kiev can get a target of these groups,
Sure.
especially when the quality of our government is so low and is very low. In my personal view,
Right.
I was very big supporter. You remember
Mhm.
as big
Yeah.
supported I Zelensky, and
Hardcore.
now
Yeah.
I absolutely disappointed, and I understand this. Some combatants, some soldiers could go to make the revolution,
Yeah. A
but
coup.
in the future, let's see why not. So and to I think to the end of our conversation, we closely to an
That's
hour
good.
to talk.
My tablet's
Uh,
about to die.
Aha. So the last question from Daniel also, what do you think about conditions of German army? I would ask you in other way.
Mm.
What do you think condition of German army, but also of American army now? Because you was in
Hmm.
Germany, but in American army in Germany in Ramstein, and
Hmm.
moral condition, motivation, military education and experience. Because this is discussed also in Ukraine and in Eastern Europe, we are here able, or we was able to fight for our country, to risk our lives.
Hmm.
But in the Western, people are getting more
Yeah.
and more, uh, you know, uh, uh, more and more not a fighter anymore. Too much civilized, too into warm kind of living,
Yeah.
they lose ability to fight. I would explain it in this way in my English. And what
Yeah.
could you say if it's true, and how is it now in army?
Well, I can't really say too much about the U.S. Army anymore. I have not been in there a long time. There's a lot of interesting developments though happening here in Germany for sure. Um, they're bringing back. The government has decided they're going to bring back the Wehrdienst. If you, I'm sure you know what
Hmm.
this is, where you have to do mandatory military service,
Hmm.
which I think is kind of a shocking move here for Germany. This is not. I think since about around 2014, 2015, they haven't had this anymore. Um,
Hmm.
also, and another thing, the military complex here now is really ramping up. Rheinmetall is now one of I believe it's still they produce more artillery than any company in the U.S. For example.
In Germany.
Yes, Rheinmetall. Yes, they are producing more artillery shells than anybody combined. It's quite extraordinary. Um, so I think they have the technical capabilities to have a super strong army. But I think where you're correct is where's the motivation? I don't think a lot of German people are willing to fight and die for Germany. To be fair, which is obviously something you have to be ready for if you're in the army, any type of army, anywhere. If you're not motivated to fight, then you're going to lose these fights. And I
Hmm.
honestly think that was the biggest problem here, for sure. As far as the USA, I cannot really say. I cannot. I really can't say. I don't know how many members there are right now in the U.S. Army, or
But could you
but
say
in
generally?
general, if you were to compare to Germany and the U.S., I think the U.S. is clearly uh, more capable and more motivated to fight in any war. But this would
Of
be
course.
not. German people are not very motivated, I think.
By the way, I think if Russia attacks Poland and if Russia attacks Germany, it will be absolutely other story, and
Yeah.
the conscience of our entire people, entire country can
Yes.
change very quick.
Yes.
We looked at also in Ukraine. I don't think a lot of people wanted to the war in on February or on January
No, of
22, but they
course not.
understood Russian tanks are rolling to Kiev, Russia is rolling into Kharkiv, and Russia is going to destroy our country, so we don't have a choice, so
Yeah.
let's do it. And
Yeah.
also,
Absolutely.
America, of course, is more militant culture than maybe even other culture of the Western world, because Americans have ability
100%.
to use weapons in
Yes.
normal civil life. It's
Yeah.
also not something usual for other Western countries.
No, that's a
And
good point. Another
generally,
strong point.
mhm,
I would say too, just this general, um, like just with the weapons. Also, it's very typical still for in America to be outside hunting or fishing or learning
mhm,
these skills on the land that a lot of other people just not interested in doing. So this also makes you a little bit better quality of a soldier. If you already have this, like you mentioned, these shooting guns already, living
mhm,
outside, being cold. A lot of people underestimate just the sheer fact. Like if you've never spent a night outside in the fucking cold, then you're just not used to it. And mentally, you're just not prepared for
mhm,
it.
mhm. Yeah, this is good. This is good. So okay, and generally, could you say that American army is less powerful than on the end of the Cold War, or more powerful? How could you say?
I think
Or
it's
couldn't
almost
you answer
it's going to be
this?
so hard to compare. Because at the end of the Cold War, we obviously had nukes, but I don't think you can underestimate what kind of crazy stuff that, for example, DARPA uh, has uh, has developed and invented that we just absolutely have no idea about. The technological capabilities, just 30 years later, obviously just have skyrocketed.
Mhm.
Um, Still don't know. I don't know about the size or anything, but like you said, they're still not using how invaluable this experience, combat experience, is. There was, until recently, maybe there's not as many people still now in the army as there who actually were in Iraq and Afghanistan. But there was a lot of guys who did a couple tours there. Many people who had really a lot of combat experience. Obviously, these people are now older and they're not in the military anymore. So that's something else you have to think about. But
Mhm. Okay, so and my last question: what do you expect from this presidency of Donald Trump, and generally from political developments in the U.S. and also maybe in Europe and in Ukraine in the next months or years?
um, well, first of all, I'm really hoping that if Donald Trump is president, the world economy will recover some. Definitely, probably the American economy will be good, which is fine for me. All my stocks are in the index fund in America. So I think I'm expecting the stock market to do better. I do think it's bad for Germany probably that he's going to hang these tariffs for them to export products into America, a lot of machinery, because America and Germany are now the number one trading partners since a couple 6 months, a year, something like this. Um, Other than that, I think people always expect so much from the president because he is the face of the United States, But there's a whole system. Also, on the other side, first of all, I think it was good that the Senate and the House is also Republican. This will definitely help him be able to get stuff done. Obviously, if you're fighting the House and the Senate the entire time, you're just not going to get anything through. So we're going to see probably about more of the same thing. I don't think he's
Hello, Kevin. So I have a feeling that Kevin had lost his connection or his yes tablet died. He wrote to WhatsApp. Okay, so very big thanks to Kevin. He answered the last question that generally. Thank you for everybody who watched us. It was my try to make something in English, and it's maybe not so good of my English, but it's try everything, as Shakira sings, And this election in America was good point to speak with an American who supported Donald Trump since years and who know about situation in America, but also from this European point of view, which I think very interesting too. Thank you everybody, and thanks Kevin, and bye. See you. Don't forget to subscribe Civilization, but generally, if you speak or understand Polish or Ukrainian or Russian, most videos we make on these languages, but English, we can maybe make something in the future too. Bye.